Good morning from our final full day here in Italy.
Aww.
Boo.
We were supposed to be up. We did get up early this morning, but then my stomach betrayed me. So we are, now that my stomach is feeling better, we are heading towards the Pantheon.
Because we watched Roman Holiday last night, and I love that movie. This little area right here on this stretch is where the cafe was that they came to sit and chat and meet the other news reporter right next to the Pantheon. It's not a cafe anymore, which is a bit of a bummer. But just down the way, there are like 3 right in a row. So pretty close. There is a line equally as long on the other side of this building going out into the street. Buy your tickets online, because here's the line that we stood in. Those people with the stroller, that was our line. There was nobody in it when we walked up, going right inside. You do have the option to buy an audio guide. The general admission is only €5. On the official website, it said that the audio guides was €15, but with no additional cost. It was really, really difficult to book tickets in advance. I will link the blog post that I found that laid it out very easily how to get tickets. Do that. It's a better option. Instead, we just downloaded the Rick Steves audio guide, and we're going to go in and listen to it. The dome above is made of concrete. It's one solid piece. It's 20 feet thick at the base and less than 5 feet thick at the top. Mind-blowing. Come into the Pantheon, if you're looking straight at the altar, at about your 11 o'clock, there's a niche with a Marian child, and underneath is where the great artist Raphael is buried in his tomb. It's pretty cool.
I think that may have been my favorite building. Sarah, you're right. This is the coolest thing. I think the greatest thing about it is the fact that you can see it as close as a Roman kind of building. Everything else we've seen has been ruins, so you're kind of having to imagine it. But this has been taken care of for so long because it became a Catholic church that it's still here.
It was originally a temple to all the gods. It's literally what the name Pantheon translates to, as all gods. And then when Christianity became a thing here, the church took this over and made it a church, which is what saved it through all of the years. Some things that I found really interesting: Hadrian of Hadrian's Wall notoriety and Castel Sant'Angelo notoriety that we visited earlier rebuilt this. From what I understand, there was a couple of fires that destroyed a lot, and then he had a hand in rebuilding it. Another cool thing is that these pillars out here came from Egypt, if I remember correctly. And what makes them different than other Grecian or Roman columns is that most of those are like drums stacked one on top of the other, whereas these columns are solid. They were quarried solid, carved solid, transported solid, raised solid. That blows my mind.
So that is the Pantheon. Now we've got some time to waste before our next really kind of cool tour, but we'll leave you in suspense a little while longer.
We are breaking every rule on choosing a restaurant. The menu is in multiple languages. They are flagging people down to come and sit. Probably overpriced and maybe not the best food, but some days you're tired and you just want to eat with a gorgeous view.
Somebody else.
It's hard to mess up pizza. It's pretty tasty. Just for price reference, this cost us 30 euros. We split one pizza. We had a Coke Zero and water. There was a little pizzeria that we ate at our last Airbnb. If I can find it, I'll link it below. We split a pizza there and had 2 of their like quarter-liter things of wine, which for split between both of us was like 2 cups each, 2 glasses each of wine, and we had water, and it was 16 euro and 70 cents. So you're definitely paying for a location here for sure, and I'm sure probably also just a tourist markup. But sometimes it's just worth the view, it's worth the seating, it's worth watching all the people go by. But if you're looking for somewhere cheaper, get out of the tourist areas for sure. Okay, we now have about 2 hours and 45 minutes to kill before our next tour. From the piazza, there's like a big sign that says Museo di Roma. You have to like come through this little cafeteria and then into this courtyard. You buy tickets immediately to the right when you come in, and then you go in the entrance. We don't really know what to expect in here. We just saw a sign for a museum. We really like museums. We're gonna go check it out. I think we're gonna like this place. This section of the museum has a lot of these busts. I think they're plaster, and they were made first as like a model that then the sculptor would use as a visual template to sculpt this bust out of marble. There are loads of them, including this one, who is Napoleon's son by his second wife.
we're spending way more time here than we thought we would, and now we're gonna have to kind of like rush through the next floor. Lucky for us, we were on the top floor, so we got to see everything with enough time. This place is beautiful. The house alone is stunning. It was built by one of the popes for his nephew. This whole stinking house, just his nephew and his wife.
We are on our way to meet up with the next tour, but first we have a couple of stops that we want to make along the way. This is all that's left of Hadrian's Temple, the same Hadrian from Castle Sant'Angelo, from Hadrian's Wall, and from the Pantheon that we've all seen while we were here, minus Hadrian's Wall, which is England, Scotland. But this was his temple. This is all that is left of it. It looks like you can go inside, but I'm not really sure what else is in there. We'll go check it out. So it looks like they have it set up inside as to what it might have looked like when it was still a temple. Thank goodness we stopped by at 6 o'clock in the morning a few days ago. It was empty then. Definitely not now. But that's not why we're here. Roman holiday location. One of these little storefronts over here on my left is where Princess Anne or Anya goes in to get her hair cut, right outside the Trevi Fountain. By far the biggest crowds we've dealt with so far. You will not get a quiet Roman holiday experience at the Trevi Fountain in the middle of the afternoon. Come in the morning. We are finally at our meeting point for our last tour of this entire trip. Really, really fun part. We are going to go down into the crypts and catacombs below Rome, and we're going to go see the Capuchin crypts, which are like chapels made of human bone, and I'm very excited. It's going to be really awesome. The downside is that we can't take you with us. There's no video or photography down there, so we will update you guys when we are done.
I'll see what I can do.
I'm too much of a goody two-shoes. You won't see anything, so sorry.
Well, that was cool.
That was really, really interesting. We started in the Capuchin monks' crypts, which is where we learned that cappuccino is named after the Capuchin monks because they're...
The color of the robes.
Yeah, the color of their robes is fascinating.
The one thing I love about Italian people is how they love to explain to you that every word that you know basically came from here, and so something that's in common
whether
with
it was
every
Latin or Greek or whatever.
Something that has been in common with every tour guide and every person I've talked to. They're like, you know where that word comes from?
It comes from this. Yeah.
And then they tell you some crazy story about how like these monks had these robes that was the same color as coffee, and then somebody called it that. I don't know.
The tour itself was really, really fascinating. The Capuchin crypts were incredible. Those are the ones that are decorated with the bones of over 3,000 monks
that because they were saying that they only had a small place to bury them in, so they would bury them, and then every 10 years or so they would disinter all the remains and move them somewhere else. And then somewhere along history, they have no idea who, but somebody just decided to decorate with them.
They thought it was maybe this monk that was an artist and it had come to be a monk to get away from some other stuff that he had done. And then they thought it was a German painter, so they don't really like it. Also a monk that was a German painter, but they have no idea. But it was fascinating to see like their remains, and it's funny because they said in the little thing that we're listening to that it's an honor for them to be there like that. So some of us may think it's kind of strange to see like human skeletons and femurs and phalanges, and those are the only bones that I know names of. Could still get her. Something to remember is to them it's a great honor. And,
yes.
So it was very interesting to see. It was fascinating, like weirdly the designs the guy
beautiful.
came up with was quite pretty.
If you think of like the Baroque style, just Google Baroque style, like that is the way that it's decorated with the bones, and it looks absolutely stunning. But going back to what you were saying about how for them it wasn't viewed in a negative light, because they very much viewed that your soul and your body were not the same, and your body was just a vessel for your soul. So when you passed away, your soul then goes on to the next journey, which is the ever after, and your body remains as like a shell. So for them, it wasn't a disrespectful thing. It wasn't anything like that. After the tour of the Capuchin monks' crypt, we went out to the catacombs, which was about a 20-minute drive outside of the ancient Roman city walls, and it's actually, I guess, in the Vatican City.
Technically, yes, because he said as soon as we crossed
stepped out of the parking lot into the...
We were in the Vatican, yeah.
Yeah. So that was out there. We did that. We learned that there are 60 catacomb systems around Rome. They're not inside of Rome because even back then, for the sake of sanitary issues, they did not bury people within the walls of the city. So they were all outside the walls of the city. These were really, really cool. There's not much down there these days other than like because there's been so much grave robbing over the last however many centuries that it's just sort of empty tombs, empty holes that you can see where people were.
They wound up finally just kind of taking everybody and all the stuff out of there to stop people from coming down and looting the graves. So
I will say, in the most respectful way possible, it was straight up like playing Skyrim down there. If you've ever played Skyrim and you've walked through the tombs and stuff,
yeah,
that's exactly what it felt like.
I wouldn't be surprised if people who created Skyrim went there and said, this is what we want, because it definitely felt like that. The one thing I will say about both these places as well is we had a few women that were wearing like tank tops, and they were told, yes, you need to cover your shoulders. The tour guide checked to make sure that they had stuff with them before they left. He also checked to make sure that all the guys' pants or shorts covered their knees. They're very serious about it, so don't show up, with like really short shorts on and bare armed and expect to get in.
I did see at the second place there were quite a few other women that were not with our party that were wearing like tank tops and shorts and stuff like that. And they had on like very thin jackets that I think are sold there for like €1. I saw that somewhere that they basically say you either buy this for €1 or maybe they give it to you, I don't know, but I think it's €1, and cover up where you don't go in. So, and that was for the catacombs in the Vatican City area. I didn't notice anybody with bare arms or anything though when we did the Capuchin one either, so definitely keep that in mind for men and women, covered shoulders, covered knees. But back to the catacombs. Those were fascinating to walk through. I know I mentioned Skyrim, but they're not exactly like Skyrim. They're very much it looks like dirt, but what it is compressed volcanic ash that makes the rock that is the bedrock of Rome. But there's not a lot of stone down there these days. I think they said there's 27,000 crypts down there, and of those, only 2,000 still have their sort of like sealed headstone intact in place. They have not been messed with. But everything else is sort of just like an open hole in the wall. Some of them are like family vaults. Some of them are bigger than others. Some of them are really tiny.
Either way, they are ancient. Mm-hmm. They're really cool to walk around. It was interesting because you go with the tour guide. You have to go with the tour guide.
Yes.
They don't. If you went down there by yourself, there's a good chance you get lost.
There is 8 miles of catacombs just within this one system under there. And the second we walked down there, I was like, oh my gosh, I now understand what you mean by you could get lost. There are looking straight ahead, there's like 7 different branch offs of paths that you can choose. There are 4 levels in there because they just kept building down until they hit a water table. So yeah, go with a guide. That was another reason why they said we couldn't take pictures or videos. 1, to be respectful. 2, so that you don't get separated from the party and then lost. It was definitely an interesting tour, and if you get the chance, go. It is cold in there, so bring a jacket if you want to. Also, if you're claustrophobic, maybe not for you.
Maybe not.
Some other quick interesting things that we learned, these were mainly Christian burial sites because the pagan Romans cremated their dead, whereas Christians fully believed in the resurrection of the body, so they wanted their bodies to be preserved. A lot of people think that the catacombs were because Christians were burying their dead illegally in the time period and that they were not allowed to bury their dead, and that's not the case. It was just for the sake of space. One crypt system, the big one next to the one that we were in, has 500,000 dead were buried in there. They didn't have the space above ground, so they went below ground. So that's another fascinating part, is that it was very much a Christian burial ground. That being said, no matter where you fall on the religious spectrum, just be respectful of the place. It is still a burial place for people's loved ones, and I think that's what matters above all else.
It was a really amazing tour. If it's something that you're slightly interested in, I would definitely go because it was well worth the money, and it was, even though we couldn't film down there for you guys, it was well worth just seeing. Mm-hmm. So that is our last day in Rome. Tomorrow we jump on a flight. Granted, it's later in the day, so we may have
a half day tomorrow.
We may do some stuff we haven't decided yet. I'm not particularly feeling too great, unfortunately, which is going to make flying fun. But tomorrow we are going to probably store our bags and then see if we can see some stuff around town before we have to get on a flight.
Or at least just eat like 7 more plates of pasta before we have to leave.
Speaking of eating, we're going to go get dinner now. And since it is our last night, we're not going to take the camera and we're just going to enjoy ourselves.
I promise we'll take some pictures of what we eat just so we can show you.